I'll make anything anybody wants because I'm not wearing their shirt.
Right.
They have what they want to wear, and I'll make that for them.
Yo! Today we're going to talk with Carl Goldberg, who is the founder of CEGO Custom Shirtmakers. And we're going to talk about something the everyday man should have an interest in. What is it like to get a custom shirt made? Carl in the building.
All right.
How are you, sir?
Pleasure to meet in person.
Yeah.
After numerous DMs.
It's been a long time.
Yeah.
It's been a very long time, but now we're finally here. I always get my man.
Okay.
So when I came in here earlier, you did not remember how we met. But
I have a very good memory, but sometimes it's, I'm getting older, so not everything stays in there.
That's okay. But before we go into that, please tell us, so what do you do?
I'm a custom shirt maker. I'm not a bespoke shirt maker. I'm a custom shirt maker. This is the term I've used since I started the business in 1983.
Okay.
And that was the term we always use. Bespoke, whatever.
I know. Wah wah.
So for years I worked with a big factory that some people would call made to measure, but I still call it a custom shirt because measurements they were using computers, so everything went into the computer, made a pattern in the computer, and they cut it. They could do slope shoulders and lots of alterations. Sadly, that factory closed, so we're doing everything in back here now.
Holy
I've
cow.
got a workroom with 9 people, and we make paper patterns for almost every customer.
Wow.
So that's why if someone comes in, we have a larger minimum. We need to get a minimum of 5 shirts. We make one to start, make sure they're happy, and then after there we cut the rest of the order.
So let's literally talk about the process.
Right.
The very first question I have is, why should someone get a custom made shirt?
Well, we used to call it, I'm trying to remember the whole term. It was cripples, cranks, or crazies.
Oh.
But, first were the people who, really what it is guys who are hard to fit.
Right.
Someone
Makes
may
sense.
have a really long arm length, doesn't fit. Their neck size is a 15.5, but their body's for a 16.5. So out of statistical norms. The second are guys who want specific details that you can't get. I've got guys who have French cuff shirts with pockets. You can't find a French cuff shirt with a pocket. Well, you know what? I don't care. I'll make anything anybody wants because I'm not wearing their shirt.
Right.
They have what they want to wear, and I'll make that for them. And the last are people who just like the process of being able to come in, pick their own fabric, pick their details. They like the personal attention, especially in here. They like the fact that everything's being made here, so they can look in back, see where their patterns are made and cut and how things are sewn. They can pick buttons and all the details that go with it. And in reality, if you're buying a better garment, if you're spending like $250 and up for a shirt, there's a lot of poorly made garments out there that they charge a lot of money for. And I could show you, there's one hanging over there particularly that gets a lot of great reputation, and it's not made very well, and they get over $200 for it. So you might as well get something that's made better and that holds up better.
So the detail, obviously, is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
Right? Amazing thing. What is the very first step when someone comes here to CEGO?
I get a lot of young guys who show up in just a t-shirt or some casual garment. So what we'll do is we'll put a sample garment on them. I have probably several different fits of garments, and we'll find what fits their shoulder and chest first, because this is the most important here. And then we talk through, I'll take measurements, and I'll talk to them, what do they want? How trim do you want the shirt? How fitted, easy? What are the details? And then we'll take all the measurements. We'll talk through what other details they want, what front style. This is a French front. This is probably what we call a placket front. Collar style, how heavy a lining that goes in the collar versus soft. Because we can make almost anything that looks like we can make anything that looks like a shirt, and I can show you later some of the things I'm talking about.
Right.
And once we work out the fit, and we can work out a fit for both a a shirt that's going to be worn for work with a tie tucked in, or casually, or super casual. How would you wear a linen shirt? You know, would that be worn untucked? So we take all those measurements into account. You just missed the gentleman here. We made him a Hawaiian shirt.
Oh, man.
But the Hawaiian shirt he wanted was not what I would call a typical Hawaiian shirt.
Why is that?
Well, in Hawaii sometimes they have a stand-up collar. To me, that kind of shirt has what we call a pajama collar or a camp shirt, which lays down.
Collar.
He wanted the tail longer than normal. But you know what? Again, it's his shirt.
He has to wear it.
Yeah, when a customer comes in, they'll suggest things, and oh, can I get this? And if I really think it's wrong, I'll tell them it's wrong. Otherwise, you know, we just work through those details.
What is a trend you're seeing right now? You said, hey, a young customer comes in, you know, they're probably influenced by, you know, social media
Right.
or, you know, a blog, a magazine.
Right. Fortunately, there is a move away from super tight shirts, which is great. The hardest thing for me when fitting somebody today is so many of the young guys have shoulders that are like this. I mean, you could ski off the shoulders, they slope so hard. And then they move forward, and I mean, I've done fittings where a guy will be standing like this in the beginning, and by the end he's like this. So which posture am I cutting a shirt for? So that's one of the things. Secondly, like I said, cutting a little bit easier these days. So, and the hardest part for me is guys who want these really fitted shirts, their pants are cut so low that they're below the hip level.
Right.
And, you know, it looks uncomfortable. But, you know, that's what guys want sometimes.
Right.
So it's gone away from super tight to trim.
Okay.
And in some cases, I'm cutting much fuller shirts for guys.
Really?
Yeah. Going back, I mean, there's guys who are wearing higher waisted pants, and they want that look where the shirt can tuck in and blouse a little bit. Because you don't want a super tight shirt with high waisted pants. It just looks kind of weird. So.
Are you doing an actual pattern for each one of these customers? A paper pattern?
Yes, we do. So this, excuse me a second.
Yep.
So this was the pattern for the gentleman who was just here. So we make a paper pattern. This is sleeve pattern, and it goes for both right and left. It just gets flipped over. Right. This is a back, and that's also done in half because we cut. And he wants darts, so this is for darts. Here's front. This goes like this here.
Wow.
I don't think he has a pocket, so if it was, he'd get marked for pocket. Here's his cuff pattern. Here's the yoke pattern, collar band, and what we call the collar leaf.
Oh, that's cool.
And this number is a numbering system which tells us what the collar height, the first letter is a height, this is a spread, that's the length of the point, and that's the back height.
Wow.
So it's an old system that I started with one of the factories in New Jersey. It's simple, it works, we all understand it.
Very
So
cool.
everything here, except of course the back and is cut twice. So everything's folded over and laid out, and so you get both pieces cut at the same time. You don't have to cut sleeves separately.
Okay. I did not know that.
Yeah, at least the way we cut.
Okay.
A big factory cuts what they call open, where the fabric's laid out open. They will cut the sleeve separately.
Okay. So if I think of a suit, right?
Yeah.
I know that I have, for example, in my pants,
Yeah.
I have around an inch to play with. There's some, right.
There's no.
What am I walking into
So
here, Carl?
the only thing that we do that's kind of really different from a ready-made shirt is we bury a 1/2 inch of fabric inside the cuff. So if you find that the sleeves are a little too short, we have some fabric in there and we can lengthen. But otherwise, if you have darts and you gain weight, you can let the darts out. But it's a shirt has no outlets.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes for theater or certain things, we will cut a garment with outlets, because mostly for cruise ships, because they never know who's going to be wearing the garment. So we leave fabric inside, so if they need to make it bigger, fabric's inside, or they can make it smaller sometimes.
I want to remember to talk about that eventually. I want to stay with the individual.
Sure.
You're doing a minimum order of 5, correct?
Correct.
And essentially that's because of all the work.
Yeah, the work in the beginning.
Yeah.
To make a pattern and make one shirt is not profitable. I mean, sometimes I'll do it, but today we have so much work that unless I really feel like I should do it, I won't.
Understood.
Yeah. A fellow called me yesterday. Can you make me a tuxedo shirt in 2 weeks? I said, there's a 5-shirt minimum. I can make it if you buy 5 shirts. He wasn't interested.
What is the general turnaround from the individual coming in, being put on that fitting sample garment? They select what they select, the patterns or the patterns?
We try to quote 2 weeks for the first sample.
Really?
We have a lot of work. So, I mean, if a guy came in from out of town, let's say someone came in from California and was in New York for a few days and doesn't come back that often, they can come in, we'll take the measurements, and we can turn around a sample in a day.
Wow.
if we need to. This way we get the fitting done and then we go from there. But, we do have a backlog of work right now, so, generally we quote about 2 weeks. Then once the shirt's done, customer comes in, tries it on, we take a look at it, see if there's any adjustments to be made. If we have to adjust it, we'll adjust, the shirt. We'll fix the pattern. If it's a complete disaster, we'll cut a new shirt. And it happens, and then he wears it a couple of times, has it laundered the way he normally launders his shirts. There's nothing worse than a guy who thinks he wants to speed up the shrinkage process by washing it at home and putting it in the dryer, because then nothing fits. We even have the problem these days where shirts stretch because of how laundries press the shirts.
Okay, how is that happening?
All right, so today's pressing equipment is what we call this robotic equipment. They wash the shirt, goes to what they call an extractor to get most of the water out.
Yes.
They
I'm
then
familiar
put
with
it on these forms that are, and they button it a little bit, and it blows hot air through while it's still wet, and the form expands a little bit as it's doing it. And if it happens more with twill fabrics and other things, and it stretches, literally. They clamp the sleeves in a way, and they pull the sleeves, and they're wet. They put the thing in, it blows out, and it's stretching the sleeve out the whole time. So what was normally figured a 1/2 inch of shrinkage allowance, because shirts normally would shrink, because of how they do this now, I've seen sleeves stretch a full inch.
What?
Yeah.
Wow, that's
Yeah, so-
utterly bizarre.
Yeah. A guy came in a couple weeks ago for the first fitting. Shirt was beautiful. I didn't want to do a thing, but I sent him home. He comes back with the shirt, and we're looking at it. The shirt was not even close. And the shirt had stretched. And it was a twill fabric that we've used for years. So,
Wow.
yeah. So we then washed it, put it in the dryer, and then cut it down to the correct size.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So, barring these abnormalities,
Right.
what is a general turnaround time? Point to point.
Figure 6 weeks.
Okay, I was saying to myself 5 to 6 weeks. So
Yeah.
I was pretty
But,
good.
that's making the shirt, doing the fitting, and then, having them wearing it. And then once we're happy with the fit, we'll usually turn around and order it around in a week
Okay.
for a customer, week to 10 days, depending on how busy we are.
And everything is cut and sewn by hand
Here.
in this building.
Yeah. Well, okay, I've got a couple ladies who will take things home and work at home.
That's okay,
yeah,
Carl.
but otherwise, it's all made by my people.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're vertically held, as
Oh, yeah.
the kids say.
Yeah. And occasionally I've had design students show up.
Really?
And people at FIT or Parsons, and they're not used to seeing a garment made from design to start to finish in one place.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
You're keeping it old school.
yeah. There's like
Handful?
There's like 5 of us, maybe. I take that back. There's less than 10 people in the city making shirts by hand like this. Maybe give or take. There's 2 of us with larger shops. Myself and Geneva Shirt. Okay. And Geneva makes that's right. He makes a lovely garment. He makes a good basic garment. He won't do the weird stuff that my shop will do.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a good segue. So let's talk about weird stuff. You have your regular customer, someone like me. Hey, right. Come in. Hey, I want this. Yeah. But rumor has it that you were doing a lot for Broadway and Hollywood.
Right. We do a lot of theatrical work for Broadway. Moulin Rouge is a good example. There's a few shirts that look like normal shirts, and then there's a few shirts that just are crazy looking. Or they're made with sheer fabrics, or ruffles out of almost a see-through fabric. We do period things like we did for Sweeney Todd. And I've got a whole assortment of shirts that you can take pictures of later that has the bib front and the big puffy sleeves. Not really a pirate shirt per se, as Seinfeld would say, but big and full cut. We'll work in a lot of different fabrics that normally people won't work in.
How did you get into the Broadway game? How did that happen?
It goes way back to like 1999. I got a phone call from a costume person. Can you make some shirts for the producer of the show Spin City?
Oh, yeah.
So I gave her all the details, how much, blah, blah, blah. I get a call the next day. Can you come measure the producer? Who am I measuring? Michael J. Fox. So I made shirts for Michael J. Fox. And from then, there was one particular costume assistant who went to work with William Ivy Long, is a famous Broadway costume designer, has won many Tonys. And the first show I worked on was The Music Man, starring Craig Bierko. And 25 years later, I made Hugh Jackman's shirt for The Music Man.
Yeah, wow.
Right. So that was the first one. And then the same costume designer kept me in 2000, 2001 is when business casual started, and guys didn't want to wear ties or nice shirts anymore. And fortunately, making Nazi stormtrooper shirts for the producers got me through the year. I made shirts for Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick. I have one over here from that point. So that kept me going. And it's not the only Nazi Hitler shirt I've ever made.
Okay.
I make one for Book of Mormon.
Okay.
But if someone off the street wanted one, I don't think so.
Okay, yeah. I was like, this is some weird perverse mitzvah.
Yeah,
I don't know. How is this?
I do have my limits. And so from there was another guy doing a lot of that work, but the people liked working with me. I grew up in a family Army-Navy surplus store in Philadelphia.
Yes.
My father had exceedingly good taste in clothes.
I've heard.
And not that I did not study design, but just being around fashion and clothing and being interested in learning, I have a knowledge of what things should look like.
Let's do a little pivot. So I know you're third generation in this game.
Well, this is my business.
No, I know it's your business. Oh, but meaning, you just said, hey, my dad, your uncle, Philly.
Yeah. Right.
So I do my research, bro.
So my first design job was I was in college, and it's 1979. I was into like punk and new wave music, and I got a bunch of. I saw some of the bright colors people were doing, so I took some surplus and dyed it up in the washing machine where I was living in college, and started wearing it, and then sent some of the samples back to my father, and they started dyeing professionally up in Philadelphia and became a huge part of the business.
Get out.
Oh yeah. They would take those. Yeah. So they would over dye all sorts of stuff. So I take a little responsibility for that.
All right. So we talk about the Broadway. We talk about, but also Spin City. But now let's really talk about the Hollywood stuff, the TV, the movies? How did that also happen?
The same. Some of the same costume people went from Broadway to TV. Sometimes a costumer would ask somebody else, I need to get some shirts made, who can do it? And my name would come up now. So my competition in Los Angeles is a fellow by the name of Anto, who makes for tons of people. But I'm doing this long enough that I'm either myself for a lot of things. There's the other fellow, Geneva, who does some TV and movie work.
Right.
And we're known for delivering on time, or faster than on time. We've turned shirts around in 2 hours.
2 hours?
To get something made, yeah. The most recent one, this one's kind of fun, for a new TV show called The Better Sister. They're filming it now, starring Corey Stahl. And we made a bunch of shirts for him. And we get a phone call 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And the comment is, the intimacy expert thinks the shirts are too short. How fast can you turn around a shirt that's maybe 5 inches longer to cover? So we said, all right, we had the pattern, just had to make it longer. We did it. It worked the next day. Everybody was happy.
2 hours. Is that a record in the shop?
Fernanda, I'm going to ask my assistant. What do you think? What can we do? Yeah, we've done a little less than 2. I mean, at that point, it's all hands on deck. As long as the pattern's ready, because the pattern takes maybe 15 minutes to half an hour to make. Cutting can be another 15 minutes, give or take. And then everyone starts sewing. Normally the ladies work in pairs and work together. In this case, this one's doing this job. This one's making the cuffs. That one's making the sleeves and the body. This one's making the collars and the fronts, or whatever it might be. And then buttonhole, quick press is out the door.
Explain.
But can you say rush charge?
I know you're not gonna give your number, but it must be a heck of a number. When that happens,
yeah.
Are you doing a messenger? Like literally, you get the order, they'll come here.
The production companies drop off. Yeah.
Okay. They'll drop off and they'll pick up.
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned something earlier that what sets you apart, at least in the entertainment realm, is your ability or your willingness to do the wildest of things.
Yeah.
How much is it that, and again, I don't know the role, so you're going to teach me and teach the audience. How much of it is an individual, I don't know, a costumer going, this is what we're looking at, versus a collaboration between you and that individual?
It goes both ways. Mostly it's the costumer has stuff, they'll bring research, and then sometimes it becomes weird random things. Recently we did for Stereophonic.
Yeah.
And the costume designer probably was in his 30s. I was a teenager when Rumors came out, and I was working at the family store, so I knew what clothes were supposed to look like. So when we were discussing what somebody would have worn, I said, would it look like this? It would have been this style. So he listened to me, and he was actually really his name is Envar. Don't ask me, I can't remember how to pronounce his last name.
Okay.
And everything looked great for that show. They used a lot of vintage. They just showed up the other day with a vintage shirt that's kind of dead, and we're going to have to recreate it somehow.
Now, what do you mean when it's dead?
Oh, it's from the 1970s. How it gets washed, every day or every other day or whatever they wash. It depends on how long it's worn for. It only lasts so long. You should see what a shirt looks like after a year of being on Broadway, being worn every other day, and washed every other day.
Really?
Yeah.
Threadbare?
They're a little rough. Sometimes there's patches in weird places because they've ripped. But it's Broadway. It's not TV. No one even in the fifth row can see half the stuff that happens.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I am a pretty big research guy, and I read in one of your Instagrams that when you're working with a theatrical production that is in previews, from an ordering standpoint, you hedge your bets, so to speak.
Well, they don't want to spend a lot of money in previews. Well, especially if it's an out-of-town preview where they're trying something out. But like I'll give you, let's see, a good one. Queen of Versailles, which stars Kristen Chenoweth and F. Murray Abraham. So they bought, and it takes place between present day. I don't know if anybody knows the story.
No,
it's about this.
I don't.
It's about this very wealthy guy in Florida. He and his wife built a home that was a replica of Versailles. It never was finished, but the point is, it was outlandish, and it was a documentary. It's hilarious.
Oh,
so they turned it into a musical, and it goes from old time Versailles when it was originally built to modern day. So we made a few shirts, but once it is ready and comes to Broadway, I'll probably make things that are much more fun for a lot of the other roles. Right now they'll buy just ready-made stuff just to get through. You know, but when it comes to Broadway, they want a lot more color, a lot more, you know, noticeable things.
We talked about something related to that earlier. Can you explain the intricacies of using particular fabrics, let's say for a TV production versus a theatrical production?
Well, let's see, for TV, you know, they want fabrics. White's not a great color, so they often tech down a white shirt so it's slightly off-white.
Now, what does tech down mean?
Tech down means it's dipped, sometimes a tea solution, very pale light tea.
Wow.
So it takes the shade down, because if you're under bright lights, it's just sometimes too bright. So if I have fabrics that are slightly a dull white, or we often use a lot of light blue, a lot of light gray to approximate white, or a light shade. And then when you do stripes, like the stripe you're wearing would never work on a TV show.
And why is that?
Today it's not so much with certain cameras, but back in the day on film, it would strobe. So you'd see it moving.
It buzz.
It would buzz, yeah. So often we do, like this is a great example. This is multi-stripes. So it's not gonna move. And then you see, and in TV they like patterns. So if you got up close and you look at somebody's shirt, you'll see that it might be a solid shirt, but it has a little texture in it. Then there's a tie, and then the jacket is not flat usually. Usually it might be a little herringbone or a slight, you know, window pane, something that's not, you know, they don't want flat, is basically what it comes down to. Whereas in theater, you want bold, because people in the balcony, in the balcony need to see something.
Right.
So, for example, we went for in MJ. There's a scene with the Nicholas brothers. Yeah, with the dancers, and we started originally with a purple stripe. That was a nice stripe, but then when we ran out of it, we had to print it, and we printed it probably twice as large, so you could see the stripe a little better from distance.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's tricks, so to speak.
So I have a lot of inventory, as I mentioned, that's bought specifically for television. And it's the type of stuff that a regular customer might not buy, but they love for TV.
In doing my research, you love securing vintage fabrics.
Yep. So I have way more than I'd like to have, but to me, you know, for example, in front of me is a pink and gray stripe.
That's pretty.
Okay, this came from the inventory of a famous shirtmaker who passed away. His name was Alex Cabaz.
Heard the name.
This fabric was woven in England by Thomas Mason, when Thomas Mason was still making in England, probably in the 80s, before they shut down. And the difference is the quality of the fabric. The methods of weaving were slower and less complicated. Today, the machines are much faster. And the older fabrics just feel better.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, they used, today they use a lot of resins in the finishing to give it sort of a slick feel. Non-iron is evil, as most people know, but don't want to think about the fact that they're saving money, you know, on laundry, that they don't have to send the shirts out to be pressed, but it's a terrible process.
Now, why do you say it's terrible?
Well, the shirt is cut, it's then glued together as it's being stitched. There's a tape in the seam that has like a fusing tape, and they don't have to sew it. They could just glue it together. So, and then what happens is they then take the shirt, they dip it in a bath of chemicals, usually liquid, sometimes it used to be formaldehyde, now liquid ammonia, a bunch of different things.
Whoa.
They then bake it. So if they didn't tape the seams over time, the seams pucker. So that's how they came up, because
That's like a fused version for a shirt. Like,
oh, worse. Yeah,
worse. Okay.
Because it's called slippage. Like I've had some fabrics years ago that were finished with liquid ammonia, and we'd stitch them, and then sometimes you'd see what we call slippage, wrinkling the pocket sometimes up by the armhole, because the fabric moves.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
because it's, you know, it's got all these resins and it's a little slippery.
Sometimes, from my research, when you're getting this vintage stuff,
Yeah.
sometimes you're like a wing and a prayer, like it's sight unseen.
Oh, you know, it's bought right. You know, again, my family owned an Army Navy surplus store. I used to go with my father to military bases as a kid to bid on big, you know, piles of used Army shirts or knife scabbards or, you know, whatever it was. And as my father said, money is made in the buy, meaning if you buy it right, you can sit on it long enough and find a customer for it.
Wow.
So there's one big lot of fabric sitting around the corner from a shirt maker who closed his store in 1990. He moved everything to somewhere on Park Avenue South, and there's 15,000 yards of fabric. He's had suits. I got Crowley to go over there, and Crowley
Yeah.
bought some of the suits and some of the overcoats, and it was all beautifully made. And the problem is sometimes this old stuff is stained or discolored.
Right. Yeah.
And his daughter, he's still alive, but he's got dementia.
Oh.
And he was a character to begin with. I tried to help him sell this stuff years and years ago,
Oh.
but he wouldn't sell. And now the daughter, like the father, thinks she's got gold.
Right.
And she said, I want this price. And I said, no, I'll only give you this, and I'm doing you a favor. It was a second floor walk-up. You know, I don't know how much it would cost me just to get something down
Right.
from a second floor walk-up.
Right.
So,
Holy schmoly.
yeah. It's still there, I think. If she had gotten rid of it a year and a half ago, she could have rented the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Foresight, you made a shirt deconstructed from two dresses, a window pane.
Oh, God, that was recently. That was for a costume designer for, help me, Fernando. What show was Leon working on? Dreamgirls. It was for a production of Dreamgirls out at the Muni in, Muni's in, I don't know, St. Louis. And it was he had a night, there's one scene where you see the two blonde girls and like a Pat Boone sort of person, you know, singing the song that was made first by a black performer.
Oh, of course.
And he loved this he found dresses for the two women, and he wanted the man to look the exact same. Obviously couldn't find the fabric, so he gave me two dresses. We literally cut it up to create a shirt, and because of how the dress was constructed, there were pieces. For example, the front was fine here, there was another piece down here, the back was split down the middle, and you couldn't see any of this. Yeah, it was a lot of work, but it got made, and it looked good.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a window pane.
Yeah.
I'm partial to window pane.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion on, because as you said, there was a customer we saw a little earlier. You seem to really be into, when we're talking about seasonality and we're talking about summer stuff, you seem to have an affinity towards florals and Hawaiian prints.
Personally, I don't do that. I don't wear that many prints myself. I mean, people have. I'm not, like I said, I'm not big on. I have some. I like larger patterns, stuff that reads casual for that kind of thing. It's very specific, so it shouldn't look like you're wearing a dress shirt casually. Like originally, this morning, I was going to put on a different shirt, and then I realized, oh wait, I'm going to be on camera. I need something that's a little, you know.
It's a beautiful shirt. I mean,
you.
I'm not blowing smoke.
Yeah,
It's nice. I'd wear it.
this fabric is probably from the 90s.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
It's really pretty.
Thank you. This was bought from somebody who closed up his business a while ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about this. You see this shirt that I have on?
Yes.
You don't think this is a familiar shirt, but it should be.
You know, we were having this discussion that you found this at a thrift store.
I did.
And I'd have to, after this, I'm going to have you pull out the tail so I can look at the tags, and I'll try and figure out where it was made and who made it.
I did that already. We did that in the DM years ago.
Yeah, but I don't remember. And I'll try and figure out where it was made. You know, sometimes my labels changed over the years and the color changed, so I can figure it out that way. But
It's
all right.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
There's one costume designer will occasionally, there's one in LA and there's one here. They'll be going through the racks of the rental houses, and they'll take a picture of a shirt of mine that was made from something, and they'll send it to me. I did a lot of work for the show Plot Against America. That was with, John Turturro was in it. I can't remember who else.
Vaguely, yeah.
And they, a lot of the clothing was donated to Housing Works.
Oh.
So someone took pictures of the shirts from Housing Works.
So how does that make you feel when someone goes, hey, look what I found? Or even like you and I. I mean, that's how we met.
Okay. Here's the best story like this is that I get an email from a guy telling me how good the shirts are. And I never made him a shirt. He had bought in LA, there's a store that buys up a lot of the inventory from the TV shows and sells to the general public.
Oh, wow.
And he went in and found a plaid shirt that he really loved. And he sent me the picture of it. And I said, oh, I made that for Mandy Patinkin for Homeland.
Love that show.
And he bought like six of these shirts. They were, because we almost always do two of the same garment. For
like a backup, so to speak?
Yeah. And then the crazier thing is, it turns out he's a driver, and one of his regular customers is a producer of movies who I went to high school with.
Whoa.
And that same fellow, he just produced, one of the producers on the new Bob Dylan biopic, which I made a lot of shirts for. And as we were saying, Anto in California does a lot of work because the actors are often there. So they made the shirts for Timothée Chalamet. Mm-hmm. I made for all the other people. So I made the shirts for Timothée Chalamet's photo double.
Your claim to fame. One thing that really we haven't conveyed, but I enjoy, is that we're both native New Yorkers.
No, I'm Philadelphia.
You are Philadelphia, but you've lived here so long, and you've been in so many different venues.
I moved here in 1980.
Oh, all right. Well,
I mean, I remember going to the East Village when it was scary. But as a kid,
East Village was scary.
Yeah, but as a kid, my father would bring me up to New York. We'd start at the Empire State Building to buy sweatshirts and things like that, knitwear. Then we'd go to Lower Broadway, which is where all the surplus dealers were. Oh. So we'd go down the surplus dealers.
Yeah, like Canal Street and stuff like that. I remember that.
So we would go down there and buy, whatever surplus we needed and say hello to this one and that one. My favorite story when I was a kid, we walk into a place, and afterwards I go, Dad, that guy looked really familiar. Who was that? He goes, oh, that was Hank Mathau. That's Walter Matthau's brother. So it looked just like Walter Matthau.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, all right. Well, I mean, you're not official, but you've lived here.
I've lived here.
You've lived
here.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay. Well,
I know that Fifth Avenue splits the city. If you're looking downtown, if you look to the right,
all right, Carl. Okay. My only point is,
I don't call the subways by colors.
Oh, anyone who does that
Yeah.
needs not to be able to take the subway. This is not DC.
Yeah, these kids use the colors.
That annoys me. Even tourists. Well, I'm looking for the. No, it's the 7th Avenue.
Yeah.
Local. But this is your more recent location, and my point is, I really got a kick out of. You used to be on 5th Avenue, right on top of Eisenberg's, and we had a conversation about that a little bit earlier.
So Eisenberg's coffee shop, if people don't know, is now called S&P.
Yes.
It was sold
Because of a legal name issue.
Right, but the guys running it are really great.
Yeah, they're in my neighborhood.
Yeah, in Court Street Grocers.
Yes.
Nice guys.
Yeah, I'm on Court
And
Street.
the owner, the second owner when I was there, he was the owner for a long time, was this guy by the name of Josh.
Yes.
He was about 6'4", probably about 280, 290, and had a
Big
ponytail
guy.
when we first met him.
Big guy.
And he would wear these crazy looking printed, like Hawaiian shirts sort of thing. So we became friendly, and it got to the point where I would make him shirts. and then I'd have lunch. And if I felt I was ate too many, my go-to sandwich was chicken salad on rye with lettuce and bacon.
Oh,
it's a good sandwich.
It is a good sandwich.
So that was my usual, but I mixed it up.
All right.
And
I'm
if I
tuna
fe-
melt. I'm a tuna melt guy there.
You know that old tuna melt was, you should have seen what those cans were. That was not white meat tuna.
Okay, we can move on. But I did the open face anyway,
Yeah.
so.
But it was a good sandwich.
It was a great
Yeah.
sandwich.
Anyway, I know all the stories.
Don't spoil my childhood.
Yeah, but I would drink a cherry Coke, a real cherry Coke, because it was cherry syrup in there.
Yeah, the real fountain.
Yeah, real fountain. But
I did egg cream.
Yeah,
Vanilla.
And the funny thing is, not that long ago, there's a guy. His name is a writer, Coggins, I think his name is. I'm really bad.
Oh, you're talking about, is it David Coggins?
Yeah, Dave Coggins was
Yeah.
talking to. Why am I blanking on his name? He's a clothing PR guy, whose name I can't remember. Anyway, they're eating lunch at Eisenberg's, and they said, "Oh yeah, Carl the Shirtmaker used to be upstairs here."
Look at that.
Yeah.
Your influence
Yeah.
is as deep and wide as Fifth Avenue.
Yeah. Actually, I was on Fifth Avenue for close to, 30 some odd years.
Oh, that's cool.
So when I moved off of Fifth, it was like, oh, I'm off of Fifth. But it's a great new space. We're really happy here. We have beautiful view of the park.
You do, Madison Square
Amazing
Park.
view of Madison Square Park.
Right there.
There's a lot of light in back, and I've got more sewers working. So we're really happy in this new spot.
And you know, it used to be downstairs.
Oh, next door, yeah. That was,
Spaghetti King. No, I'm talking
yeah, yeah,
downstairs.
yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
I thought that was
yeah.
I-
And next door was Live Bait.
Live Bait.
Yeah.
The other interesting thing about this building is actually it wasn't my space. It was the space right next door in this building. Was the first rehearsal space for the band Kiss.
Get out.
And I believe Wes Anderson had space in this building at one point.
That's not surprising.
Originally, when it was built, they were making bricks for the MetLife building over here.
Oh, what?
They made bricks in this building.
Get out.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
I like New York stuff like that.
yeah, I've never been in well, my first office space was in the Lincoln building on 42nd Street.
Yes.
But since that time, I've never been in a fancy building. Not even a B grade building. It was always like a C building.
Okay. What was your best? Listen, you've done like you said, you can't even count. But what right now in a lightning round? What sticks in your mind is like the best shirt you did, custom shirt? Like what was it like that it got you? Like pattern or the person? Or
I don't know,
project?
you know, it all sorts. At this point,
They're all your
I mean,
babies.
the really fun TV stuff is great. That's weird, but there's nothing like guy comes in for the first fitting, you put it on him, and it's like, this is great. I love this. So that always makes me feel good.
Okay. What was your worst experience, either with a customer or a project, one that you're like, oh my God, yuck?
It's been a long time since I've thrown somebody out, but it's happened.
What?
Usually it's done nicely. Then I say, you know what, this isn't going to work. Let me give you back your deposit.
Wow.
Sometimes they're too picky. Sometimes they're really hard to fit or weird, and it just doesn't go right. So
Okay.
it's better off just cut my losses. Yeah, I mean, recently I had some clothing designers come in and ask me to help them because the factory in China wasn't delivering, so they handed us a shirt to copy, which we did, and then we gave the pattern off to a friend of mine in Midtown who was going to make them, and then they measured it, and then there was a medium, which I never saw. They said, well, this shirt's not the right size, so they brought me back both shirts, the small and the medium, and they were the same size essentially. So I don't, you know, it didn't go well. So I
Okay.
asked these young guys to,
Skedaddle?
yeah.
All righty. Why is fashion important, Carl?
You know, we get bored. I mean, there are people who wear the same clothes for their entire life almost. But fashion, you know, it gives us a little change. And we're not necessarily talking about fast fashion, which is, as we all know, is terrible for the environment.
Yeah.
But something that has a little bit of change to it. collar styles, for example. I took a pic. We just did some 1970s shirts.
Yes, you showed me.
So they were kind of fun. But now the shirt I'm wearing now has kind of a larger collar. We actually have a little device in here that has a patent that keeps the collar standing nicely without a tie, because nobody wears tie. I shouldn't take that back.
Hey.
Most men do not want to wear a tie.
Right.
I have young guys who come in who can barely button the collar.
It's probably one of my interns.
Yeah.
So sad. What difference has fashion made in your life?
I grew up with it.
You did?
Yeah, I mean, in the Army Navy store, I grew up with fashion. My father was an amazing merchandiser, and he took surplus and made it fashionable. He was a Francophile because he had spent time, he was in the second day of Normandy Beach.
Whoa.
And he spent a lot of time. He loved France. He was the first one to import those fisherman sweaters to the United States. Those striped.
Yeah, I did some research on that. Yeah.
He was one of the
I
first
forgot
people,
about
he was
that.
one of the first
Didn't write
people
it
to
in my
bring
notes.
those in.
Yeah.
So I grew up with
That's impressive.
styles as things changed, and I don't really go. There's a bunch of trade shows now.
Yeah, I'm going to one
And
today.
I just don't go anymore. I barely even read the trade magazines, but I watch a little bit, see what's changing.
Well,
Yeah.
you've put in the time.
Yeah.
What is the top fashion tip you would give the everyday man to look his best?
Just make sure you have a nice fit, a comfortable fit, and if you're going somewhere, make sure the shirt's pressed nicely. I've had guys walk in, I pressed this shirt myself, and I look at it, I'll take it back and I'll let the ladies repress it. And make sure it feels nice. I mean, that's one of the things about my business is that we use really good fabrics, and they feel nice. I mean, we make boxer shorts from leftovers. We'll make a boxer short from a yard of fabric where that shirt would have been a $400 shirt. And, we had a yard left, couldn't do anything else with it. Do you know what that feels like? It feels beautiful.
It is about the feel.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
My final.
But one last thing.
Yeah. No, please,
don't
please,
be,
please.
high yarn counts feel great. They don't last as long, and they wrinkle more generally.
Right.
So
Just
to
like
me-
suit fabric
right,
and
to
this
me,
whole
a sweet spot
Super
is
one,
just a
Super two.
two-ply hundreds or two-ply 120s yarn will last really well. I mean, I posted on my Instagram, I got rid of a shirt recently that was over 11 years old.
I know. I responded.
Right. And I'd even
always
already
heartbreaking.
replaced the collar once. It was just so beaten to death. And I couldn't replace it. I had fabric. I couldn't even replace it again because it wouldn't have sat. It was all worn out. But it was a beautiful fabric from Italy, from a mill that no longer exists. A 120s two-ply using good cotton. And it was just great. Felt nice, yeah. So,
Yeah. It's all about how you feel.
yeah.
Final question, ask of all my guests.
Yeah.
What does the phrase "always be fly" mean to you?
Oh, jeez.
I know. Look at you. Come on, you can do it.
I'm an old white guy.
I know. A young black guy. Yeah. We're going on tour.
Just, make sure you feel good walking out the door. Make sure that, you don't necessarily need to make a statement, but make sure you feel good in what you're wearing.
I like it.
Yeah.
You did it.
All
Carl,
right. Pleasure. Nice to meet in person.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time.
it was a
It
pleasure.
was enjoyable. And wander around, take some more pictures. I'll be happy to show you guys all the crazy theater and TV stuff that we've got here that we keep around.
I will do the tour.
Yeah.
I'm not dropping my pants for him to see my tag.